Okay, all right, brilliant. So we're back again. It's another Sunday morning, which tells its
Morning,
own
everyone.
story. Oh, I always say that. Yes. So welcome back, everybody. So I think for this conversation, we were going to have just a general discussion. Along the theme of just chatting about quitting, as I've kind of titled these discussions. Um, and I think for this one, we thought that we would peel the cover back. And I think we've touched on this, but we haven't really spoken about it in any detail. So we'll sort of, raise the curtain on the fact that you have, in fact, written a book about this subject. It's a book called Man Gets Sober, which
Yep.
is the content and the context is very much in the title. Obviously, I've read it. It's really a brilliant book. It's an easy read, and so I think we sort of thought we would loosely, talk a bit about the book. Just what drove you to write the book in the first place. What did you learn by writing the book? I guess if and when it might be available for people to get a copy, if they want to do that. So, and then
Yep.
as with all these conversations, it starts off and we go off on tangents and we just have these brilliant discussions. And I was listening to one just this morning, actually, just as a reminder, and I don't know. I think it's easy to forget how useful a lot of this content really can be for anybody who is thinking about their relationship with alcohol and whether or not, quitting might be something for them. So, with that, yeah, just tell us a little bit. You've written a book. I feel like there should be a drum roll and
Yeah, I was trying to set up fireworks and everything, but it's yeah, you can't buy them in France. So anyway, no, thank you. Yeah, I've written a book. Even just saying those words sounds very odd, but I'll answer your questions, I think, afterwards in terms of why I was driven to do this. But I think probably I'll answer some of those in the little intro and stuff that I'm going to cover now. So yeah, so I wrote a book. Yeah, absolutely. Just to say to everyone or anyone who's listening, where it's at. It's been edited. The cover design has been created. It's currently being typeset, and it's being ready for ebook publication and paperback, probably through KDP, which is Amazon's Kindle Direct Publishing solution. So yeah, should be. My goal is, we're September now. I think for several reasons really, but probably in another month or two it will be out. I think that sort of winter Christmas time is when a lot of people question themselves. A lot of people start to think about their drinking, their issues. Certainly in that January period where we have dry January, and we have those times where people do indulge and do overdo it, and then they kind of question, actually, is this not just a Christmas thing, but something I'm doing too much of anyway? So that's kind of my goal. And without further ado, I'll sort of, I want to just give you a bit of an intro into it, and then I think I'm just going to read like the first couple of pages. And what I'd like to do is, if people are watching this, if people are looking, via the website, I might be able to offer a few free copies at the start. So let's see how that goes. But we'll talk about it more in our Sunday sessions, and when it is time for release, then obviously you will all know. So my book. So it's called Man Gets Sober. I the title was just, I wanted something straightforward, and look, hey, it's exactly what it was. And the subtitle is Men Don't Talk. So I wrote it down, and it's all the shit you need to get sober in one little book. um And that's what it is. It's just designed to be simple, fun to read, easy to read, and to give you those guidance and pointers into sobriety. Um, it covers 6 main topics. So it's my journey. How I got to the situation I was in, really sort of from cannabis in my youth to my ultimate downfall, which was cocaine and drink. Then we go into my observations on sobriety, and I think this is a fun part of the book. It's everything from sleep, the fear of missing out, to the fact that we're all addicts in some form of or another. I then talk about getting sober. So what I did, my plan, etc. Um, as Russell Brand so eloquently puts it, how to unfuck yourself. So there I provide the tools and everything that you need. When you've made your decision, because that's the one key point that I stress throughout the book is that this has to be your decision. It can't be your family. It can't be um, your doctor necessarily. This has to come from you. Um, then I move on to a key part of the book, which is staying sober. So I think lots of people concentrate on getting sober, but really there's another key element which is actually staying that way. It's a journey. It'll test you on a regular basis. You will be asked about it on a weekly basis, whether you like it or not, no doubt, through interactions with people, through evenings out, whatever it might be. And then finally, and I think this is what we touched on earlier, is why I really wrote the book is to help others. So there's a section around helping others, giving something back. Um, you know, this is a beautiful situation to be in for me because I have hindsight, I have experience, I've been there, I've done it, and I've come out of it, and that's what compelled me to write this book, really. And if I can help just one person, get sober via this book, then I will have done my job. So that's that. And it's dark, it's funny, um, but most of all, it's truthful. It's me honestly laying out my dirty washing in a sense in order to help you get yours clean. It was hard to write, but I wrote this without care of what other people would think, and it can be crass, controversial at times, but it steers away from the boring. It steers away from those get sober in 30 days books. We so often see those, and I think it's false promise. And some of them are very good, don't get me wrong, but I just wanted to do something different, and I guarantee you'll be able to relate to this book. Um, and one thing I wanted to add actually is don't be put off by the title. This is applicable to women just as much to men. And you know what? If any women are watching out there, this is going to give you an insight into a man's mind, and which woman in the world doesn't want that? So that's really just a bit of an intro that I wanted to give, and then what I'd like to do is just read you the opening page. Um, so if that's okay, I'll start with chapter 1 and just read you through the first page. So it's titled "Why Bother Reading This?" If you're reading this book, chances are you're just like me. You fell in love with alcohol and drugs, or one or the other. You're also like me because you've gone past the point of fun, and whatever your drug of choice, it's starting to or already has fucked you up. You'll notice I've used the word love. That's because to get to the problem stage of drugs and alcohol, you will have adored it. At some stage, and quite likely for a long period of time, it will have been your love. Nothing better. Pure excitement and fun, and you'll have valued it more than anything else you cared for. True love. I will state this now. There was nothing, and I mean nothing, I look forward to more than the opportunity to drink alcohol and take drugs. My little combo was alcohol and cocaine. I absolutely loved them. They became my identity and gave me unbelievable times. This may seem like a strange thing to do in the introduction of a book about getting sober, proclaim my love for the things that completely destroyed me. But I must be honest. The truth is, no one sets out wanting to be fucked up by alcohol and or drugs. I had many happy times off my head, and that is one of the hardest things about quitting, especially in the long run. However, for me, the fun became a habit and then an addiction, or, put simply, the repetition of an act with no regard for the consequences. If you're reading this book, then the effects of your habit are no doubt driving you or have driven you to the point where you know you need to stop, and more importantly, want to. I'd lay money on the fact that deep down, you know you're fucked and that you need to do something about it. The excuse you've been caught out again, you know damn well what people think about you. They've probably said things which have really annoyed you, even though you know they're right. You're fed up with the regret, the embarrassment. You're possibly at rock bottom or not. It doesn't matter. But you know it can't go on like this. I don't care what anyone says. There's always a feeling inside saying, you're done. This fucking ends now. In short, the pain has arrived. The pain is where it all starts. The pain that you so desperately want rid of. It's outweighed the pleasure for some time now. You know what you're doing is wrong and that only stopping will make things better. Here's the first of the good news. Stopping will make things better. I went through it. It immediately made everything better. In this book, I'll tell you how I gave it all up. I'll tell you without lying, without smoothing over the cracks, without fear for what my family will think when they read this. This is a book about me, an everyday man who quit a serious alcohol and cocaine habit. What I did to get there, what I did when I was there, and ultimately, what I did about it. I promise, if you can just use 2 or 3 points from my story, it will help you quit too. Anybody can change. They just need the tools and advice to guide them. Most importantly, they need to want to. You're reading this book, so I know you want to change. And simply by admitting that, you're doing an incredibly brave thing. This book won't be a hoot to read. It's not one for 2 weeks in the Seychelles, and no one's going to make a play out of this fucker. But you will get a huge amount from it. The mere fact that you're reading this is a great thing because it means that you've begun your journey. You've accepted you need help to whatever extent that may be. And you're here, educating yourself for the biggest change in your adult life. I'll talk to you more about this later, so it may sound a bit wank for now, but you should consider yourself a superhero. You're about to do something that many thousands of people can't do. You're about to stop drinking alcohol and or taking drugs. No cape required.
Wow. Right. Oh my God. Yeah, that is excellent. God, I mean, I've there's a lot to unpack just in that. Yeah, yeah. I mean, I read it a year ago. You gave me a draft, and but I'd forgotten about that introduction, and that almost feel like we could just end this conversation here, and that what you've said would be so useful. But thanks for doing that. That was brilliant, and it
No,
reminded me
yes.
what an amazing book it is. So yeah, well done. It's for those of you who don't know, Matt and I quit drinking for various reasons. We both have stopped. If this is the first one of these that you've listened to, you won't be aware of that. And we've touched on so many points regarding the benefits of quitting, some of the difficulties. It's such a broad and nuanced subject that there's just endless conversations to be had. But that introduction that you just provided there it kind of almost sums up the entirety of everything we've been talking about in one go. And I think just a couple of things that written down. I think the thing about how much fun it was drinking, that's something that doesn't often get talked about. The fact that you do it
Yeah,
because you love it, like you said, you loved it. And you mentioned Russell Brand. I remember him talking about, um, he was saying he was doing a program or he was doing something in the media, and he'd been sober for 10, 15 years. He was big heroin, drink,
yeah,
drugs guy. And they happened to be doing a feature on a group of girls essentially in a bedsit in like East London who were heroin addicts, and they were all sitting around, taking heroin and being high. And he said at that moment, I think he might have even been married to Katy Perry. He was married to a,
mm,
Hollywood rock star. He was living the life of, fame, fortune, riches, and everything. But at that moment, there was a peak of jealousy, a fleeting moment of jealousy, that he actually was slightly jealous of those girls in that
mm,
rammy, awful bedsit apartment in a terrible part of London, because he can relate to that. And I think that's what's really honest about this book, and the thing that I think is going to be really helpful to people is it's not preachy. It's not you should be better, you should be doing better. It
no
really
way.
talks about the sort of vulnerability and the thing that leads you into getting stuck with booze or drugs or whatever.
Yeah, and just that it's understandable that you people get to the situation. You get addicted to a drug that's addictive. It's not shameful. It's reality. We live in a culture, we live in a society where alcohol is idolized, and it's an addictive drug, and it doesn't, it's no surprise that people get into issues, get into problems, and it's just about being truthful about that. And I think that's really where I want to be super clear, is just, I have been truthful in this book, and I have laid it out as it is. And you know like I say, no one sets out to have issues with alcohol or drugs. They they set out because it's pleasurable, it's enjoyable, it's fun.
Mm.
But for those people where that line has been crossed, and they want to do something about it, because it has to come from you. I have to keep mentioning that because it's just so true. It's not something that you can try. It's not something you can, I'll have a go. It's no good. It's got to be. I want this more than anything in the. I want sobriety more than anything else ever. And yeah, so no, and it's, as I say, it's not a boring read. It is fun, and I think there's some comedy moments, some situational things which I found myself in, and just relation to how I perceive the world, and how it relates to these topics. So I really do think it's it's nothing heavy, and like you say, it's not judgmental in any way. It's a book to help. It's a book of
Mm.
hope. It's a book to enjoy as best one can on such a topic. Whether you're sober, whether you're thinking about it, whether you've been sober for 30 years, whatever, I think you'll get value from this book. I wouldn't have written it otherwise. And it's a self-achievement thing. And actually, just one thing I really want to make a point of is, this is the shit you can do when you get sober. There is no way on God's earth I would have written a book. I'd have talked about it. I'd have been good at that in the pub. Yeah, I'll write a book one day. I've got all these ideas. I'm great. I never would have done it, because I was too busy, you know, drinking and not doing anything because that's your spare time. That's your hobby, right? And once that goes away, it opens up this door of possibilities, this door of, you know, oh my God, there is so much more to life. And that's what sort of drove me. And I had, COVID came, and I wrote this during COVID, or the majority of it, because whilst I still worked, there were it was all homework, and so I didn't have those, traveling to and from work. So I had extra time, which when you're not drinking or indulging in any other substance abuse type affairs, is time back and time you can use. So that I did, and yeah, I'll keep you updated on the book and as we move along. And I really, really hope that
Yeah. Yeah.
people enjoy it.
Yeah, well, look, we're going to talk more about the book, and I think we'll talk more in detail. And just if the first chapter is anything to go by, we should definitely do more chapters because it is brilliant. I have read it, and as I've mentioned before, it is I couldn't put it down. I mean, I just read it devoured that book. It's a great book, and it does make you laugh out loud. It will make you laugh and cry, as the sort of classic, sentiment has it. But there's a couple of things really. I mean, I wanted to sort of there's a lot to unpack in this, and maybe let's just have a quick, general conversation, and then maybe this will sort of tee us up for more detailed conversations in other areas. But I liked this, the thing about, we've talked about this before with drinking. We've talked about there's sort of three groups of drinker. There's the sort of people who don't even think about moderation. They can just drink. They'll have a couple of glasses of wine. That's it. I think we've talked before that your wife, my wife, our dad, but that we know people who they'll have a glass of wine and they don't even have to think about
Yep.
moderation. Then there's this massive middle group, which certainly I definitely was in. I think we both were. And there's this varying scale with that middle group, but that group are constantly playing kind of mental gymnastics with themselves when it comes to drinking. Should I drink tonight? Oh, maybe I should. Should I have one drink? Oh, I had three last night. I wish I hadn't had three. Why did I? I didn't need that last glass of wine. Why did I have that last glass
Yeah.
of wine? And
Or
that,
I didn't drink last night, so I'm definitely going to drink tonight.
yeah, exactly. We've done we've recorded podcasts on the subject of the excuses we come up with to justify drinking. And then there's the final group, obviously, which is the sort of where this evolves into a physical addiction. And I think we've mentioned it before. When you get to that level, definitely professional help is
Yeah, 100%.
needed. But this is really talking to that middle group. And I really liked what you said about, if this can just help one person, if one person reads that book and because of the book or just maybe something they read in they adopt a different way of thinking and they quit drinking and they are able to experience all the benefits and all the things that we have both achieved since we sort of took that complication away, then that is fantastic. And I talk about it myself, this whole thing with what we are doing here, providing information about self-help, about well-being, mental, physical well-being, being the best version of doing everything. It's this is all about, just the point of doing this is if it can help one person, then it's kind of
Exactly.
worthwhile. Why wouldn't you do it? Just
It
one
really
final
is.
thing on the book as well, just on the honesty side of it. I've read it, and I know that one of the reasons you in some respects have sort of hesitated, I suppose, to go ahead and publish it is because it is really honest. There's a lot in that book.
Yeah.
It's a very, very honest. But I read a book not long ago by a guy called Alan Davis, who is a sort of comedian, actor, very famous in the UK. Outside of the UK, you may have. He's also a big Arsenal fan. I'm a big Arsenal fan, so I listened to his. And he wrote a book called where is it? It's called Just Ignore Him. It's on my bookshelf up there, and it's the story of his childhood. And when he wrote that book, he actually went on a course to sort of learn how to construct and write a book. And one of the things he says is that the teacher, who apparently was awesome, talked a lot about going to that honest place. Go there. Go to the place of complete honesty and open up, because that's where the value really, really is. And I just know that you did go there, and I know that.
Yeah.
And I know it's been difficult for you to sort of finally put that in front of the world. But I do think they're the things that will help people. The fact you did, I think that's what will
Yeah.
help.
No, thank you. That means a lot, actually. So, it's true. And you know, it's very hard to uh, you know, be honest, because in the sense of, you know, everybody has that self-preservation thing inside them, which is, you know, what will people think of me? Will they judge me? You know, um, am I? You know, I was classic. You know, I was a sneaky fucker when I was, you know, drinking and drug taking. It was, you know, obviously hiding it as best I could. So now you're putting it out in front of the world, and you know, close relatives, family say, actually, I had a massive problem, and it's all in this book, and that has held me back. Yeah, it has. You know, I'm not gonna lie. But I've got to a point now where it's you know, that people need to hear us, and if I, as you've touched on so correctly, is if it can help someone else, then I've done a good thing, and that's all it's for. You know, I'm not in this for. I never wrote it like as a money making exercise or anything. It was just, I've got a story to tell. I've got something to say on this subject, and I really want to say it, and it's in this book.
Brilliant. All right, no, it's fantastic. I feel like it's been a good one. I mean, I think that you know, the problem is I keep it's so absorbing. There's such a lot to unpack. Maybe just quickly, I think it would be worth just reminding everybody, including ourselves, the what it has given. And you know, we've talked about this a lot. You mentioned it, that you wouldn't have written a book had you not stopped, you know, boozing.
Yeah,
You also said, which I thought was really interesting, because you would have talked about it. You would have been in the pub to, you know, and
yeah,
we're all, you know, that drunken conversation where you're just going to fix the world, and everybody believes it. Everybody in the conversation believes that, and most of all, you're like, oh, I'm gonna do this. And just from my own experience, I know for a fact that I was able to do things in my career and life, and you too, and get
yeah,
to a place where that I just, and we talked about this before, this the value damage scale. You know, this comes out the opposite way, so I'm not sure if I'm going to, with the camera it's slightly, but there's a sort of value damage scale with alcohol, and there is I think like the sort of one or two drinks, we've talked about this before, that, you know, if I use my wife as an example, she'll have a glass of wine, and the sort of value is up here and the damage is here, because there is real value in the relaxation, the sense of reward. It's a nice thing to do, you know, one or two glasses. But the more alcohol you have, the value starts to drop, and I'd say about two or three glasses, you're at about you know, parity.
yeah,
And if you go beyond that, you're into, this is actually doing me more damage than it is good. And the simplest way to frame this entire conversation, or conversations that we've had, is it's really simple. And you know, deep down, you don't need anybody else to tell you this. This isn't this,
no,
there's no metric for this. There's not like, you know, you had 15 cheeseburgers, that's clearly too many. This is a metric which you will know. If alcohol is taking away more than it's giving you, it's time to rethink your relationship with alcohol, period.
yeah,
Yeah, if you still genuine, and like, not what you convince yourself is the truth, but what you know deep down in your heart and soul is the truth. If you are still in, you know, getting, if the value of having a few drinks is still outweighs any downsides, and there are downsides, it doesn't matter what you do, just one drink is bad for you. You know, this myth of, you know, glass of red wine is good for you, the chemical breakdown of what alcohol does to you. You know, being drunk is a poison induced disruption of your system. That's what being drunk
yeah,
is. Let's be clear about it. It's a
mm,
poison induced disruption of your system. It's ethanol, which the body turns into a thing called acetaldehyde, by the way. And acetaldehyde, if you thought ethanol was bad, acetaldehyde is like a bitch compared to that. It's a really, really bad thing. So putting it inside your body isn't going to help you. But there are the sort of psychological, I guess, you know, just the sort of, what's the word I'm looking for? Just, you know, general kind of life benefits of maybe having one or two glasses of wine, which sort of do outweigh the value. But like I said, if your value damage ratio is slightly out of kilter, then it's definitely time to think about it. And it's definitely, and that's what we're talking about. I think that's
Yeah,
the
I
point.
think what you said is, so true. Is you'll know, deep down, you'll know if that balance is out of kilter.
Yeah. Okay. And just the thing about what it gives you, and the productivity and your ability to get things done and the time or what have you. I think time, like like you said, you're not the time that you're not spending hungover, the time that you're not spending drunk and drinking too much wine. You will find other things to do with that time, and that one good decision to either seriously cut down on alcohol or completely eradicate alcohol will lead to other great decisions, which we've talked about. So. Okay, well, look, I mean, if you're okay, I mean, I think we can probably leave this conversation.
Yeah. I was going to leave on a bit of comedy, a bit of something funny actually, because
Okay.
when you were talking, when we were having that discussion about, you know, um, as I mentioned, I could talk about things and I never put it into action. And someone, funnily enough, sent me a joke yesterday. On that sort of topic, and it simply it says the amount of plans made on a night out makes me laugh. BMX trip to Vietnam, yeah, sound son. Give me an inbox in the morning.
Yeah, it's incredible. It is incredible, and we've all
Yeah,
done
we'll
it.
go to the World Cup. We'll go to every match. We'll go to Brazil, and it's like,
It's
anyway,
weird, isn't it? It's
yeah,
mad. It's crazy. Yeah, I know. And when you take all of that away, yeah, you just hit this sort of level of sort of steady equilibrium, or whatever the term is, and
yeah,
you don't do it. But yeah, no, brilliant, very very good.
nice one,
Yeah,
cool.
good.
All right then. Well, listen, I think you know it's been a good discussion. Hopefully, everyone's enjoyed this morning. I'll keep you updated with the book as we go along, and please join us again. It's you know we're doing this because it's uh, it's there to help. So hopefully, it is.
Yeah, fantastic. Really, really good. Thanks, Matt. That was great. I think it's probably one to come back to, because, like I said, there was so much in there, so much to unpack. But honestly, I think just for this session, the first 2 pages or chapters or whatever it was that you read of your book, I think that's where the value was in this. It was really good. So that was great. And cool. Right. Well, we'll call it a wrap. Thanks everybody again, and until the next time, take care.
Bye.